AskReddit by NoRaFog 6945. What is a character death that really upset you? Merlin Kingsman Golden Circle. That really pissed me off. Why question mark? When Littlefoot's mom dies protecting them and Sarah from Sharptooth. I'm still not over it. Edit. Thank you for the gifts, kind strangers. John Coffey in the Green Mile. I'm tired, boss. Cole Henry Blake from MASH. And poor Ada having to tell everyone while they were in awe. R.I.P. Henry. Different season but apropos, war isn't hell. War is war, and hell is hell. And of the two, war is a lot worse. There are no innocent bystanders in hell. War is chock full of them little kids, cripples, old ladies. In fact, except for some of the brass, almost everybody involved is an innocent bystander. Hawkeye. Leslie Bridge to Terabithia. So unexpected. I put BTT on for my kids after we watched the Narnia movies. Skimmed the trailer, thought this looks good, and bam. Traumatized kids and a pissed wife. Where the Red Fern Grows ruined me. We read Where the Red Fern Grows and Old Yeller the same year in school. What a cruel FN teacher to do that to us. Thomas, my girl. He can't see without his glasses. Okay, first of all, how dare you make me relive that childhood trauma? Had to be me. Someone else would have gotten it wrong. Edit. This is the first time I've ever had a comment blow up. Thank you for the awards, fellow N7. He is the very model of a scientist Solarian. Charlotte from Charlotte's Webs. I was so invested but then she suddenly died. Like I remember being so upset. But torturing of characters is much more upsetting than death, at least for me. Castaway came out when I was an awkward teenager who often felt left behind and without many close friends. When Wilson was lost at sea, I cried so hard I had to leave the theater to compose myself. I felt that loss deep in my lonely little bones. It's been 20 years and I am now a grown adult who has embraced my awkwardness, and have found very dear friends who make me feel appreciated and loved. I have a wonderful partner and a teenager of my own. I am no longer lonely. But every time I rewatch that movie, I always have myself a little sob for Wilson, Tom Hanks, and my inner child. After my uncle divorced, he once told me that his ex-wife was his Wilson. I haven't forgotten about that and how hard the divorce must have been for him. Deleted. Mako had just been diagnosed earlier that day with stage 4 lung cancer when he went in to record that. It's absolutely heartbreaking, in every way. Wallace, The Wire. For some reason Bodhi hit me harder, even though he wasn't nearly as innocent. He just kept doing what he was supposed to do well, but he was one of the pawns. Lenny N of Mice and Men. I read that book nearly 30 years ago and it still bothers me today. Mufasa. Hands down. The way Simba acts is heartbreaking. Help. Somebody, anybody, sniffles and voice breaking, help. Brooks from Shawshank Redemption. Just the look on his face when he's walking through town after being released. He's narrating a letter he wrote about the world moving too fast. He looked so lost. Brooks was here. Yondu. And Littlefoot's mom. Oh god, when Littlefoot thinks he sees her but it's actually just his own shadow? I haven't even seen this movie in literal decades and I'm about to cry just typing it. Tara's death on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Rufio from Hook. His death was such a shocker because the whole fight scene was pretty mild. Nobody was really dying, it just looked like the pirates and the Lost Boys were fighting throughout the whole thing. And then all of a sudden, Rufio gets stabbed and it's like, wait, what is going on in this movie? Tadashi. From Big Hero 6. Tadashi is here. Finnick Oda. Oh yeah. His death felt awful to me when I first read Mockingjay as a teenager. He was my favorite character. Especially when it's revealed at the end that his death and everything in the book was all for nothing. They were just a fucking diversion. Made the end when Katniss shoots at what's-her-name who's as bad as Snow so much more satisfying. But damn, I wish Finnick had his happy ending. Or a less painful death at the very least. It was still as brutal seeing it years later on screen. Thought the actor played Finnick very well and made me like him a lot too, even though I had an annoying feeling reminding me of his impending doom the whole time. Sam the German Shepherd and I Am Legend. Wash from Firefly. I Am Leaf on the Wind. My husband bought a hoodie that shows a large gaping wound on the front and the back that says I am Leaf on the Wind. I have yet to forgive him and it's been nearly a decade. Bobby Singer from Supernatural. Having him show up in The Boys I was like damn it I don't want to see him die again. Kate on Sis. MRS. Vance, too. But Kate, that was way before I started watching, so when I was able to stream from season 1, Ep 1 where she came in and Gibbs hired her. His never-ending goal to find Dari. That assistant in Jurassic World. She didn't deserve that. IDK they had to give the most drawn-out brutal death in the series to some poor office worker who had some kids dumped onto her. Ned Stark. In the books Ned shook me. Kill the good guy? Who does that? The one that actually upset me was in the HBO series Shireen Baratheon. It's been years and it still makes me sick. Boromir. Just started my annual rewatch of the films last week. I always cry when Boromir dies. His story is so incredibly tragic, especially with the extended scenes in the first 2 films. He was a good yet incredibly troubled man due to the immense pressure put on him by Denethor. It's so sad but expected that the man with the most pressure on him was tempted so much by the ring. Tearing up just thinking about it. Dr. Green on ER. I full on sobbed over that one, it was so sad. Charlie in Lost. Not Penny's boat. Prim from Hunger Games. The way her death happened still hurts to think about. Yes. The movie and the book both did it justice, but the book accomplished something that the movie couldn't quite grasp, the hole left in fans' hearts. Collins made sure that we all felt a little unsettled after hearing how Prim died and how the mom was just kinda surviving but not thriving and, yeah, very unfulfilling and bittersweet, but way more realistic than a cliché happily ever after for Katniss. Oh my little. Indeed. OP from Sons of Anarchy. Yep. This one is it for me too. While this is the most emotionally charged death in the series, Tig being forced to watch his daughter be burned alive was the most shocking. That one really fucked me up. Nick in Stephen King's book The Stand. I threw the book across the room after he killed off Nick. Nick is like the main character for the first half. What a twist when he died so pointlessly too. I have to respect it though for the unexpectedness. Ellie, up. I don't hurt for Ellie, she lived a long loving life. She didn't get to have kids like they wanted. I cried for Carl who was left behind. I hate that. Lance Sweets from Bones, so sad. Fucking wrecked me. And Mr. Nigel Murray. Bob from Stranger Things. I was absolutely bawling. A Baron Martell. In the books and show lol. I remember reading it first and slowly realizing what was happening. I was so mad lol. Man, I recently reread the books and was absolutely shocked at realizing little he actually shows up. Over the course of like 3 chapters he goes from new character to one of the most devastating deaths of all time. That was some prime character building there. Casting Pedro Pascal certainly didn't ease the blow. I remember being stunned by the Red Wedding. Hodder. Hold the door. Cedric Diggory. That was the moment in which the HP films became a lot more dark and serious, and I realized that the whimsical and magical turn of the first couple movies was over. And the way Mr. Diggory wailed and cried while holding his dead son, it hit me right in the oof button. Young me watching the series for the first time was not prepared for that. I saw Cedric as such a good role model, an outstanding example of a smart, caring, selfless, and clever young man. And then he was dead. Just like that. I cried. Said Suko from Grave of the Fireflies. I cried a bit when she died, but when they started playing that montage of her life I completely lost it. Like, full on bawling like a baby. The thing is, I basically knew she was going to die from the beginning, but her death hit so hard and just, goddamn, I say Ota Kahita, don't do this to me. The fact that Grave of the Fireflies starts at the ending, yet still manages to be a full-blown emotional sucker punch when the moment arrives, just speaks to the power of that movie. If you ever suspect that there's been a pod person invasion and you're not sure if your relatives have been replaced, show them this movie. If they aren't an absolute mess at the end of Grave of the Fireflies, then they are definitely pod people. Of course, now that I think about it, if you utilize this strategy and your relatives are actually pod people, then you will have just blown your cover because you'll be bawling uncontrollably, so now I'm conflicted. Bing Bong from Inside Out. That shit made me tear up when he said, "Take her to the moon for me," after he sacrificed himself. I saw it in the theater and somewhere behind me a small child went NOOOOO when that happened, and all of a sudden all of the adults were crying. Sirius Black. Always sucks when the dog dies. Recently, Tech's death in The Bad Batch. I was depressed for about a week, and it's still upsetting to think about. He looked into our eyes as he fell. Imagine season 3 of TBB is going to have some next level tear-jerking going on. The Green Mile with John Coffey. Fred Weasley. Haley, Aaron Harkner's wife in Criminal Minds. And it's not even about her. It's how they all reacted, how Hotch reacted, that made me cry. Molly from Molly and Me. We all left that theater sobbing. Hedwig. So unnecessary. Old Yeller.